Good evening, everybody. Welcome along to the TGP series. You join us on what is a bit of a sad night. It's the final week of TGP1 action for this season, and the final night of action as well on this game. It must be said, F1 2022 going in the bin after tonight's race. It's the final race of season 39. You are joining us on the Suzuka Grand Prix circuit. As ever, we've got two races coming up for you tonight. We're starting off here in Suzuka, and then we're heading off to Great Britain for the season finale on what has been a very interesting season. The championship may have been wrapped up with the Confessor taking his second TGP1 crown, but there's still plenty to fight for further down the order. For example, we've got the battle for third place. Jean currently holds third place in the championship at the moment, with Jack Hickey just 3 points behind him. We've caught an outside chance for third place still. But as ever, and for the last time this season, I'm joined in the commentary box by Softy. Softy, good evening, hello, welcome. And for one last time in TGP1 in season 39, let's go racing.
Yes, let us go racing indeed. And what two circuits to do it as well. You got Japan, obviously Suzuka, probably one of, if not, in my eyes, the best circuit to drive around if you can nail it. And also the second race, which is Silverstone. Again, another two classics, two circuits where you've got a lot of skill, one with very high downforce, one with very low downforce. So I'm very much looking forward to both races tonight, and hopefully they both produce some great racing.
Well, I hope so. I think the scene has certainly been set for some good racing tonight, Softy. As we said, we've got a few people with not really very much to fight for. The top two in the championship has been decided, which means that we've got the Confessor who's going to win the title. Dan the Man is going to be second place. So those two will want to go out on a high. And then we got the rest of the field, really, who have kind of got to sort it out amongst themselves. So they're going to be a little bit more minded to get things going. Ferrari have Ferrari won the Constructors? Not quite. Oh, I think they have, actually. I think Ferrari have won the Constructors. Have they? No, not quite.
It wasn't mentioned last week, so I assume not.
Ferrari 408 and McLaren 330. So 43 times 2 is 86. And no, they haven't won the Constructors yet. So Constructors still to play for. So we have got that to look out for as well. I mean, let's be honest, Ferrari very likely to take it in Japan, but stranger things have happened. And Softy, let's not forget, we've seen one man dominate a lot of the season. He won the first 8 races. He then won 2 more back-to-back and won last week. So 11 race wins for the season for Shane. He'll want to finish on 2 race wins at the end of the season, won't he? He'll want to finish on a high.
He will, yeah. I mean, obviously, he's doing what he needs to in Japan, of course. You want to start at the fucking... Never mind that part. Just ignore my swearing there. No one ever knows it. But anyway, more importantly, yes, he will want to start this race at the front, and he's clearly doing that with, 3 and a bit tenths over the next best car, which is Dan the Man, of course. However, I do hear, apparently, according to a few people in the TGP1 chat, he's actually going to start the second race, Silverstone, at the back. So he's actually giving people a chance to do well. Although I probably still think he's going to probably win it, knowing his pace differential to the rest of the grid. So yeah, hopefully it's going to be 2 interesting races. Obviously, Silverstone should be interesting if he does indeed start at the back. So yeah, we're just going to have to wait and see, I guess.
We shall but see. We've got just over 2 minutes left to go in this qualifying session. So let's give you a quick rundown of the provisional order. We've got the drivers starting to leave the pits to start their final flying laps. We've got the Confessor provisional pole with Dan the Man joining him on the front row at the moment. The Confessor at 28.9 with Dan the Man at 29.3. Speed Kai in third place. Jovial Manatee making his return to racing this evening in P4. Phil Bardwell P5. Mr. Chip Ellie up in P6. Good qualifying session for him so far. Matt Tibos in P7. Cam P8. Mayor Quimby P9 from Big Boy Ewan rounding out the top 10. Jean then P11. Jack Hickey, who are watching now, coming across the line, is currently P12 and to be one of the first drivers to set a final lap time. Court Gill down in 13th at the moment. ERT Jordan 14th. Cole Hoffner is 15th. Dom Smith 16th. Jake Davies in 17th with Dan Morris and Jack Pearson propping up the order at the moment. But Softy, we've got a car on a flying lap. It's Jack Hickey. It's our outgoing TGP1 champion with 1 minute and 20 seconds left to go in this qualifying session. Talk us around a lap.
Yeah, so through the S's here, obviously coming into Dunlop, you see Dan the Man's actually retired, so he's actually binned it. just before he gets under the bridge. Actually, if we stay on board with Jack Hickey, you're probably going to see him in a moment, actually. But yeah, car in the way there. Oh! Jack Hickey's done the same thing! And I assume that's exactly what Dan did, to be honest, but managed to hit the wall. So, yes, unfortunate for both of them there, but very lucky for Jack Hickey. So, yeah, I don't think he's going to be doing any better than 12th unless he really gets round to start another lap, which he's got the time, I reckon, if he, improves very quickly and gets on the power. But it's very easy to do that, to be honest. You take a bit too much curb, you get on the grass and round you go.
Yeah, well, we just saw Cam invalidate his lap as well, so Cam's going to be no better than 8th, Jack no better than 12th, and Dan the Man no better than 2nd, but looking fragile at the top there. Jean-Luc Taylor finding a 10th and a half through the first sector. We've got a car park at the final chicane of drivers trying to make some space before they start a lap, and one of the drivers in that car park is the Confessor, but they haven't got very long left. They've only got, 10 seconds, Softy? Is the Confessor going to get to the line?
I think he will just. I think it'll be about, 0 seconds as he gets across it. And there we go. It's actually 2 seconds. So, and actually what we'll do is we'll go on board with the Confessor, shall we, Mike? So you're going into turn 1 then. You want to sort of take as much momentum, ride that inside curb, keep a wide line so you can tight, you can get a good exit. Avoid the curb on the left because it will unsettle the car. Ride all the curb on this left. Again, avoid the curb on the right. Very easy in these S's to actually unsettle it, as there is a yellow flag ahead of him. A bit wide there from the Confessor, but keep it tight to this right-hander, and then you've got Dunlop as the Mercedes is out of the way. Very easy to lose your rear end on this curb and up this hill. He does it perfectly fine. I think he probably will be having a slight improvement. Is he? He's a 10th and a half up, so there we go. He's improving. He actually gets a bit of oversteer there, so that probably will compromise his line where Dan and Jack Hickey both spun it. But here we go into the hairpin, then brake just after the curb ends on the right-hand side. Short shift because it's very easy to lose traction here, where obviously the car is cambered and the circuit's cambered. Keep it very tight to the right-hand side here. Shortest run, of course. And here we go, the legendary spoon corner. 6th gear. You can take it in 5th. He does take it in 5th. You can ride this curb, but it can very easily, again, unsettle the car, avoid it on the left, and ride all of it on the exit, and then keep the car to the left. He actually keeps it to the right, so that's quite surprising. Although he's a 10th and a half up, so is he going to make any more time? And he's actually lost a 10th in that middle sector, so he's only going to improve by half a 10th here at present. But brake about 100 metre board, ride all the inside curb, ride all the left-hand curb as well, avoid this exit curb because it will unsettle it and keep to the right. And actually, Speed Kai goes pole, but is it going to be enough? Is the Confessor going to improve? It will do it, it's a 28.8. There we go. And I was actually spot on when it comes to what I thought was going to be pole, so I will take another one for that one.
Yeah, well, as ever, Softy, accurate as always, but Kai giving the Confessor a run for his money in the end. It was only 0.08 of a second that separated our top two in qualifying. Hopefully that will provide us with another good race, good entertaining race. We saw, obviously, Kai and the Confessor battling for a win. Oh, gosh, it was last week, wasn't it, that Kai won a race?
It was, yeah. I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, and I think he overtook the Confessor, if I remember rightly. Imola. Of course it was Imola.
Yes.
Anyway, let's give you the qualifying order for the penultimate race of Season 39 of TGP1. The Confessor starts, as usual, from the pole position spot, with Kai joining him on the front row. Down the Man crashed out with minutes to go. Starts P3 with Jovial Manatee in P4. Jean-Luc Taylor, P5 with Mr. Chiapelli in P6. Phil Bargewell, P7 with Big Boy Ewan in P8. Dan Morris was 9th and Matt Tilwas round out the top 10. Cam was P11, Court Gill 12th, Mayor Quimby 13th, Jack Hickey 14th, ELT Jordan 15th, Jack Pearson 16th, Dom Smith 17th, Kong Arthur in 18th, and Jake Davies rounding out the order. Now that's quite interesting, Softy. So we've got a McLaren at the very front and a McLaren at the very back. So everyone therefore is the meat in a McLaren sandwich.
They are, yeah. Very unfortunate for JD because I think he was actually doing quite well, but sadly it didn't end that way. But yeah, it is a McLaren sandwich for the grid. Obviously, the usual suspect at the head of that field. However, it was definitely a lot closer than I thought it would be. Speed Kai finally finding some form again. Again, I don't know whether he's playing the game more or anything like that, but he's been absolutely nowhere sort of the second half of last season and sort of most of this season. So it's took him to the final 2 weeks to actually get some pace. So fair play to Speed Kai, but yeah. We're looking to try and get a good start. And Jovial Manatee obviously making an appearance this evening as well. We know how good Jovial Manatee's starts are, so it's going to be interesting to see if he can gain 1 or 2 places into turn 1. It's not the longest of runs, but it's a long enough run where if you've got the great starts that Jovial Manatee gets, it can make all the difference come the end of the race.
Yeah, well, we're pretty much ready then for the penultimate race of season 39 of TGP1. The drivers are ready, we're ready, we hope you're ready too, because we got 3, 4, 5 lights in Suzuka. And we're underway. It was a long hold, but we finally get going. And you're right, Softy. Jovial Manatee has got off to a fantastic start. He's already got past Kai, and he's challenging the Confessor on the inside into turn number 1. He's on the inside, and the Confessor just about holds on to the lead. Kai's gone backwards. He's dropped down to 6th place. And we've got Carnage further back as Phil Barger's had a spin. Big Boy Ewan's involved in that as well. And Phil has plummeted towards the back of the pack, but the Confessor has held on to the lead of the race. Dan the Man into 3rd place, and Mr. Chiapelli has climbed up to 4th. There was a disastrous start for Kai, but everyone else around him has Chiapelli's now gone wide, and he spun, and has he held on to it? I can't quite see. He has
just.
And he's come back onto the track just in front of his teammate. Those soft tyres not quite giving him the grip that he might have thought he would have done. And now Kai is on the attack. He's on the medium tyres and right behind Jean-Luc Taylor into the hairpin. He thinks about going up the inside, but the Williams just about closes the door enough. Very close on the exit. But Kai's going to want to get his head down and start focusing on the cars in front. Meanwhile, the Confessor has raced off to a 1.5 second lead already.
Yeah, I think Jovial Manatee, though, is obviously the top 2 are on the softs, whereas Dan, Jean, Speed Kai, and Maya Quimby all on those medium tyres. Actually, Maya Quimby up to P6, so fair play to him there. But I don't think Jovial Manatee will make it too difficult for Dan the Man, but he does need to clear him pretty quickly if he's got any chance of keeping the Confessor inside when the roles are reversed here. But I think, is he going to try it up the inside is Dan the Man, I think, so he's probably using a bit of hers there. And no, Jovial Manatee holding his line, didn't go defensive really, as Kong Hofner is out, sadly. So that's at 130R, so I'm not sure there, but Dan the Man is really wanting to get past him. He's using a lot of his ERS, 70% ERS, but he's not quite got that straight line speed, so I definitely think that Dan the Man is running probably a bit too much downforce when it comes to trying to attack on that main straight, but 1.6 second gap to the Confessor. But to be honest, I reckon a lot of these drivers will be running high downforce because of this type of circuit, but it'll be interesting. We've got a yellow flag, so I think someone spun. It's Mr. Chiapelli into turn 1, unfortunately. Very easy to do there.
Yeah, shame for him. He started so well, obviously up to 4th place right at the beginning, but has subsequently dropped back. And interestingly, Jean and Kai have started closing up on Dan the Man now as well, which is good to see for their advances. Maya Quimby, as you said, doing very well up into P6. Cam not really making too many inroads, but look at this. Kai alongside Jean as they head towards the hairpin. He's going to have to go the long way around. He's late on the brakes. Jean holds the inside line, and at the moment he's got the track advantage, but Kai with a great drive out of that corner. And once again, they're almost side by side as they head towards the spoon curve. Kai got the battery deployed. He's using his overtake, but Jean is just about holding off for the time being. Great scrap this at the moment for P4. 2 drivers on those medium tyres. As we said, just the top 2 of these top 5 started on the soft tyres, so worth watching that through the race. Meanwhile, Big Boy Ewan is putting pressure on Jack Hickey, but Matt Tibbos just behind. Matt Tibbos actually dropped all the way down to 14th place right at the start of the race, but making his way now back up into P11 with Phil Bargewell back into P13.
Yeah, it's very close, Big Boy Ewan thinking about it. Up the inside of the Confessor obviously sets another fast lap. We've got another yellow flag there. That's Mr. Chiapelli again. This time he's in the wall. He did was it a Sauber? I can't remember which one. I think in 2010.
Oh, look at this, Softy. Sorry to interrupt you. Kai right on the back of Jean, and they're almost side by side going through turn number 1 there, and this Alpine is not leaving this Williams alone. We've got 2 shades of blue, but it feels like 50 shades of grey, the closeness that they're putting onto each other around the Suzuka circuit. But for the moment at least, Jean has held on to 5th place, and all the while this is allowing Cam to just keep them in eyes distance, although interestingly Cam has got past Owen unseen by us.
Yeah, and Court's actually just got past Owen as well there, obviously going into the middle sector there. So I don't know if Owen got probably a bit of a out of shape going through Dunlop there, but yeah, that allowed Court into P7. So Maya Quimby sort of dropping down at present as Phil Bardwell now ahead of Dom Smith as Chiapelli gets a speeding penalty.
Yep, and here we go then. Kai versus Jean round 2, and this really has allowed Cam to close up. Cam has gained 0.7 of a second between the very end of Sector 1 to the very end of Sector 2. So that's just how much at the moment Jean is affecting Kai's race. Meanwhile, Dan the Man just 0.3 of a second behind Roy, just in front of us. And look at this, Cam is going past. While I was fanning around with the cameras, Cam has taken the initiative and moved himself up into 5th place. But Kai is going back up the inside. He's late on the brakes. They touch wheels, and Cam is, for the moment at least, just about held on to that 5th place. Meanwhile, Dan the Man is starting to put pressure on Jovial Manatee. We'll keep an eye on what's going on behind as well. Dan's not keeping close enough. Kai, meanwhile, has got the overspeed. Cam weaving across the straight, trying to break the toe. He's going to send Kai around the long way. Kai's going to think about it. They get side by side, but the Aston Martin holds on for the moment.
Yeah, very aggressive defending there from New Zealand Cam, obviously. So we've actually spawned, he's lost it on the curb. There we go. So that's that battle done and dusted. So unfortunate for Cam there. And now he needs to wait for all these cars to go through. Otherwise, it could potentially be an absolute plane crash there. So that's very unfortunate for Cam there, but very easy to do in the heat at the moment. You touch any of these curbs, and you're going to go around. It's very easy, but very unfortunate.
I think we lost someone else there as well for a spin. Jack Hickey! Jack Hickey spins! The Red Bull driver. He had a spin here last season, of course, let's not forget, in dramatic circumstances with, apparently it was Glock. I seem to remember it being Kai. Nothing against you, Kai, but nonetheless, that's just how my memory works. But Jack Hickey going for a spin once again in this Japanese circuit.
Yeah, unfortunate there. Is actually Dan the Man 2 and a bit tenths behind, so he's within that half a second margin to Jovial Manatee, but just can't get close enough. Obviously, bearing in mind, Jovial Manatee is on those soft tyres, so I reckon he'll probably be pitting in the next 3 or so laps to get onto a set of mediums. But this is costing Dan the Man any opportunity to get after the Confessor, and the gap now is 4 seconds from first to second. So, it's going to be very difficult, and I'm sure Dan the Man will be wanting Jovial Manatee to get out of the way into those pits sooner rather than later. And actually, Speed Kai is now only 6/10 behind Jean. Obviously Luke Taylor, so that battle for 4th is probably going to be heating up in the next lap or two. But again, bearing in mind, 3rd to 5th are on those medium tyres. Big boy Ewan pits from, I think that was P8.
We've got all this going on behind. We've got another yellow flag. I think that was
court spawn in the S's.
Oh, court. Gutting. Promotes now Matt Tibbles up to 7th, JD up to 8th, and Dom Smith up to 9th. So disappointing for Court. Ferrari's still on course to win the constructor title at the moment, but I was just going to say, Softy, actually, we barely had to talk about him in this race because he's just sort of cleared off, but the Confessor, 4-second advantage over Roy. Worth mentioning, obviously, they're on the same tyres, so Dan really needs to work on getting past Roy sooner rather than later. Let's not forget what happened last season when we were racing here in Suzuki. You may remember, Softy. It was Dan the Man chasing down the Confessor with just a handful of laps to go, and had a pretty nasty spin on 130R, and somehow didn't end his race. He'll be hoping that doesn't happen again this time. But look at this, Softy. We've got a battle for 2nd and a battle for 4th, and all of them nose to tail, but no one could get past.
No, again, I think it's because the downforce that they're running. Obviously, Japan, you want to run, it's sort of a compromise. You want to do well through the S's, but if you run too much downforce, you're going to be absolutely nowhere. Come this back straight, which is really the only overtaking spot into turn 1, and then that back straight as Roy does pit. Jovial Manatee is in the pits. So that's going to be music to Dan the Man's ears. But let's see how quickly Dan the Man can close up on this lap to the Confessor. It's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, bearing in mind the Confessor is on those softs yet again, of course. So I'll be reckoning he'll be pitting in the next 1 or 2 laps as well. There is obviously Jovial Manatee is dropping down the order, of course, on or in the pits, but he's actually going to come out with a decent gap to Dom Smith and after the cars ahead. So that's going to be very decent for him as JD and Matt Tibos up here have swapped places just then, I think. I don't know if that was Matt Tibos getting ahead or it was just the positions changing with Jovial Manatee in the pits, but it is very close between Matt Tibos and JD. And Matt Tibos, bearing in mind, I think a few seasons ago, had probably about 4 or 5 spins in qualifying alone in those S's. So it's very interesting, but JD looking to attack at the minute.
Oh, and we got a move for 3rd. Kai dived up the inside of Jean at the hairpin. Jean's come back at him, but now it's a drag race up to Spoon Curve. We've lost Jake Davies from this race, so we missed that as well. We're doing fantastic at this, Softy. But as they head towards Spoon Curve, Kai's on the outside. Jean's still got his nose in there. They run off the track almost, and Jean, for the moment at least, has held on to 3rd place, but Kai is not giving this one up.
He's not, and here we go then, round the outside, he's using all of his ERS while Jean has also got no ERS at all, but he's going to be side by side, and actually Jean backs out of it into 130R, so he's going to allow him to get ahead for the time being, but is he going to go up the inside? He thinks about it, but thinks better of it come the end of that straight, and that is Speed Kai up to P3 at the minute.
Jean Pitt on the mediums.
Unusual. I think he can make the softs work. Taiwei's not amazing around here. It's not great. You know, it's not bad. It's sort of in the middle. But the interesting thing is obviously the Confessor is staying out longer than what John is on those medium tyres. So yeah, I mean the Confessor can afford it. He's got a 4.8 second gap to Dan the Man at the minute. So yeah, but the Confessor's going to be on very good medium tyres when he pits and come the end of the race. Just the camp gets a penalty there.
Yeah, he's coming. I just caught that. Actually, he's coming to the pits very fast. Not really a surprise to see that's been given a penalty. So Roy is in P6, Jean P8. The gap now 2 seconds between these two. That probably is about accurate. By the time you toss up the time Jean would have lost battling with Kai on his in lap. Jack Hickey, the meat in the sandwich here. Is Jack Hickey pitted, Softy? Surely he hasn't.
Let me have a look. No, he's not. He's been on those tyres 6 laps, so he is still yet to pit.
And that is a set of tyres he spun on, let's not forget as well. So, you know, not having it all his own way. Cam, unfortunately, has retired from the race as well. It looks like he spun coming out of the pits. A bad day, going from bad to very much worse. Are we now going to see the Confessor coming to pits? Yes, we are. The champion-elect has come into the pits. He gets it slowed down just about in time. And we will see where he comes out in relation to Roy then. So the gap before the pit stops between Roy and Jovial and the Confessor was 4.5 seconds. Or was that to Dan? It was about 4 seconds.
That was to Dan. I think it was 5 seconds to Dan when he came into the pit, so it was probably a bit smaller than that. Obviously Jovial Manti, who of course was just ahead, but yeah, I mean the Confessor easily out ahead of Jovial Manti and is actually around the turn 1 already. So I think it's probably a bit bigger of a gap than it was, and it's actually 5.3 at the minute. So that gap has grew, and to be honest, the Confessor pulled out about half a second on Dan the Man on that in lap as well. So yeah, the Confessor, the fact that he's got this margin and he's on fresh tyres with only a handful of laps to go, yeah, I mean unless he makes a mistake. Then it's pretty much sealed that he will win, unfortunately, but end of the day, you know, you've got to beat them to win, and no, they haven't done that so far.
This is quite interesting, Softy, just looking at it. Jack Hickey, as we said, has been on those tyres since the beginning of the race, but he's keeping tabs of Roy in front of him. The gap has been actually coming down the last lap or so. So, you know, Jack Hickey finding some good pace. Someone else who's finding some good pace is Kai. He's bridged that gap between him and Dan. He's got that gap to under a second now. So these two, your leaders of the race on the track at least, but the net leader of the race is the Confessor, and he's got a 5.8 second advantage over who is net second place, unless these two we're watching now can do anything about it. And Dan Pitts, there we go. So early stop then for Dan the Man, and only allowing the Confessor a 1 lap to come in and put the medium tyres on. Dan now putting the soft tyres on, and Softy, I'd be amazed if Dan can overturn this.
Yeah, it'll be very difficult, but I think Dan has to. I think Dan's fight really is with Jovial Manti at this moment in time, as Jovial Manti is coming down that back straight, and I think Dan the Man is just going to do it. It's going to be quite close, actually. Is he going to go around the outside in still one? I think he's actually going to go side by side. It's going to be very close, very easy to make contact, and Dan the Man up the inside, but Jovial Manti holding it round the outside, and Jovial Manti just keeps head. But this is what Dan the Man had to do. He had to try and go a bit more aggressive to try and overtake Dan the Man, and at least give him time on those soft tyres to try and push and get close to the Confessor if possible. But the Confessor has a decent margin at the minute, obviously over this pair, but you know, Jean is right behind these two now, so it's, you know, it's not all over. You know, it could be who's going to get this position, and also you've got Speed Kai still yet to pit, so it could be a momentous battle the last few laps. And to be honest, I would probably say Jovial Manti doesn't have the outright pace of these two behind, so it's a bit more of a cork in the bottle, to be honest. But yeah, Dan the Man is thinking about going around the outside, both using their RERs, both deploying it to try and get ahead. And here we go then, very close there, but Dan the Man trying to round the outside of Spoon, very difficult, and he's actually made it stick. So fair play, and Jovial Manti, probably a bit of a tap to the side of Dan's car there. Yeah, he's sadly lost out, Jovial Manti. So now it's going to be interesting to see how quickly, again, Dan can close up on those soft tyres, whereas, of course, the two cars ahead and the Confessor are on those mediums.
What a fantastic move that was from Dan. That was that was balls personified. You know, he's just come out of the pits. He knows he's got to get past if he's going to have any chance of not just winning this race, but getting second at the end of the day. And Jean doing very well to follow him through. Roy been on those medium tyres for a little while now. Speed Kai is coming to the pits, now coming out to the pits. It's going to be very close between him and Dan, is it? Not quite, but it's all changed because Jean is behind Kai now. So Roy, the big loser in all this, came into the pits and he was P2, but now down in P5.
Yeah, and Matt Tibos in P9 and Dan Morris going side by side into turn 1. Dan Morris up the inside, and that is Matt Tibos demoted 2 places, and actually he runs wide and actually gets a penalty for that. So bit of an unusual penalty there if you run wide, but that has allowed Matt Tibos back through and actually caught, I think, had just got ahead of Matt Tibos coming onto that main straight. So I don't know if Matt Tibos or Dan Morris have been battling and made mistakes, but yeah, caught back up to P8 there, but unfortunate for Dan Morris.
Yeah, shame for Dan Morris, as you said, with a penalty to go with it, which he'll have to foot at the end of the race. Dan the Man, meanwhile, starting to close slightly on the Confessor, but nowhere near as much as he'll need to make an overtake, it must be said. So, not really going too well for him. We're still keeping an eye on Dan Morris, who's hoping for an immediate retaliation on Matt Tibos. Jean-Luc Taylor now falling outside a second softie from Speed Kai. So, it could be that these two being Dan and Kai, are just having a sole battle for second place.
Yeah, unfortunate for Jean there. Obviously, again, I don't think he's shown he's got decent pace. You know, he's been there or thereabouts, not quite there for the most part in terms of outright pace, as Dan does set the fast lap 3.6 seconds, but you know, only 3 and a bit laps to go, 2.5 laps to go, whatever it is now. You know, the time is running out, and you know, the Confessor's on 84% ERS, so he's not even burning any of his ERS, while Dan is using the majority of his to close that gap. But yeah, Jean has been the surprise of the season for me. You know, he's picked up his pace this season compared to where he has been previously, as Matt Tibos and Dan Morris yet again going at it. This time Dan Morris does make it stick, runs it a bit wide, but that is Dan Morris up to P9, but he does have that penalty, of course, for the last lap. But yeah, as I was saying, Jean is the surprise for me this season. He's done very well, but Speed Kai is very close behind Dan. The man is going to try it up the inside. No, he's not, but Dan does go defensive there. You know, it's very easy to actually probably outbrake yourself into that hairpin trying to go up the inside of someone. But yeah, you know, as I was saying, John, it's the surprise of the season personally. Speed Kai probably the disappointment of the season after the last season, where he was fighting for the title but ended up finishing I think 3rd or 4th. As Speed Kai really trying to get close to Dan the Man, and is he going to do it?
Look at him now, he's using the battery.
Straight. Absolutely, but you know, you don't want to go side by side through 130R, especially if you are on the outside. But is he going to try into this chicane? He probably will. Is Dan going to go defensive? Yes, he does. And Speed Kai actually thinks better of it. He's going to try and wait, and Dan is on the defensive line, so Speed Kai should get a better exit and should hopefully be able to attack into turn 1, but hopefully not for Dan.
Yep, Speed Kai then, DRS open. Deploying the battery, he's gaining, but not by much, and it's only towards the end of the straight that he's actually anywhere near. Up the inside he goes, into turn number 1, Dan runs wide, and Kai moves himself up into P2. Dan thinks about the cutback on the slightly better line, but can't have an answer to Kai, who moves up into P2. The Alpine on the penultimate lap makes his way into second place, and Dan the Man got a little bit squirrely through the S's as well, and has dropped to over half a second behind.
Yeah, Speed Kai, a lovely move there from him. He went obviously up the inside. Yeah, Dan tried to hold it around the outside. Obviously, you know, there's not really much you can do to fight back. And Speed Kai's got on the curb then. That's allowed Dan straight back. So all of that work is for naught.
Yeah, Kai, very unfortunate there, but it's an easy curb, and Dan the Man's run wide now, and they're side by side. They're on the long run now up to Spoon Curve. Look at them. There's just a paper's width between them as they head their way round the right-hand bends. It keeps to go on forever. Kai's going to be up the inside into Spoon, and for the moment, he takes back second place, but Dan the Man isn't going to leave that one lying down, and you would have thought he'll be on his back end in just a few corners' time as they head onto the main straight.
Yeah, Dan the Man does have 42% ERS opposed to Speed Kai's 17, so yet again, you know, ERS update for everyone. Dan the Man is in a much better position to have an attack and also defend. But I think it will all come down to the very final lap. I don't think Dan the Man will be close enough potentially into turn 1 to make that move, but I could very well be wrong. He's using his ERS, so I think he is actually going to try it. He's thinking, I need to use my ERS, and there we go. Speed Kai is derating. His Phil gets a penalty on the penultimate lap, and that's a nice and easy move there from Dan the Man. And this is what I mean. If you're derating, that's how easy it is to overtake someone if you're using ERS and you've got DRS. So, but Speed Kai, you know, he just needs to keep it tidy through this first sector and middle sector, keep as close as he can, and try and get a run into that final chicane on the last lap.
Jovial Manatee, meanwhile, just half a second behind John, but we're focusing on the battle for P2 at the moment. We are on the final lap. We've got just half a lap to go, and Speak Eye is putting pressure on Dan the Man. He wants that second place back, which, as you said, Softy, he got so expertly on the last time round on turn 1, but he made a mistake at this corner here under the bridge, and that allowed Dan the Man back through. Kai, realistically, with only one, maybe two more opportunities, but Dan's wide again, and Kai's nearly spinning. He doesn't need to be doing that. He needs to be getting his head down, but look how much time he's lost. He's now over half a second behind. That could be chance gone.
His chance gone. There's not a chance that on one straight with a chicane you're going to make that time back. He may be quicker potentially, and I think this race he probably has been a bit quicker in terms of outright pace, but there's not a chance you're going to be able to make that move now.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, the Confessor's going for fastest lap on the last lap here. He's absolutely blitzed the middle sector. He's pulled out almost a second to down the man behind. And as he comes around the final corner, he's going to take win number 12 this season. The Confessor, once again, on top of the world. He gets the fastest lap on the last lap as well. Dan the Man, second in the championship, second in the race. And Speak Kai comes across the line to finish third. Jean did hold off Jovial Manatee in the end by just 2.5 tenths. Big boy Ewan, great result for him. Completely unnoticed by us. Comes home in P6. Phil Bargewell is 7th. I think he'll take that, all things considered. Court Gill is going to come across the line just about. He almost cutting the grass on his way to the line in P8. Dan Morris, has he held off Matt Tibos? No, he hasn't. So Dan Morris will be 10th. Matt Tibos in P9. Jack Hickey promoted to 11th after penalties for Owen Quimby. Drops him down to 13th with Dom Smith in 12th. ERT Jordan is 14th. And Jack Pearson is going to cross the line last of the finishers in P15. Well, Softy, it wasn't perhaps a classic, but we certainly saw some good racing in there with some good overtakes. And as you said, your favourite term, bit of ERS management.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. If you can manage your ERS well and you can keep up that pace still, you're in a considerably stronger position than the people that are only on that pace with using ERS. And I think that we've seen this season that the Confessor has that pace without having to use ERS, and probably most other drivers don't have that pace while using it. So it puts him in a league above everyone else. And it is unfortunate because I would like to see a close battle between the Confessor and everyone else, but in the end you only race against what's on the grid, and sadly people just have not been up to par this season, other than the odd race here and there to match or beat the Confessor. But in the end, I think they've all had a reasonable season. The Confessor obviously winning his second title in TG1. I think he's done very well, and I think a lot of people will be taking away this season and this game and thinking, right, we need improvements for the next game.
Well, they need improvements for the next game, but focusing on this game still a little bit more. In this race, we have the Confessor, who won yet again this season, and a very controlled, dominant race win. Didn't quite lead every lap, but most of them, and fastest lap to go with it. Down the Man, your second place finisher with Speak Eye in third. He'll be disappointed with that in the end. Jean came home in fourth with Jovial Manatee P5. Big Boy Ewan, as we said, was P6. Phil Bargewell was 7th. Court Gill in 8th. Matt Tibos in P9 with Dan Morris rounding out the top 10. Outgoing TGP1 champion Jack Hickey is 11th with Dom Smith in P12. Mayor Quimby P13. ERT Jordan 14th, and Jack Pearson the last of the finished drivers in 15th, with Cam, Jake Davies, Mr. Chip Helly and Kong Hoffner all retiring. So Softy, any takeaways from that? I mean, obviously we've still got to see whether the Confessor is going to start Silverstone from the back of the grid, but it's focusing on Japan just for a little bit more. Was there anything we saw there that was perhaps a bit of a surprise? I mean, the first thing I can think of is what a drive from Big Boy Ewan to finish P6. I know he started 8th, but at the start he did lose a lot of places, so fantastic result for him to be P6.
No, I completely agree, and I was actually about to say that as well. Big Boy in P6. Obviously, it doesn't do a lot of races, just like the odd race here and there is obviously a reserve or a stand-in. So, and the fact that he only finished, I think, was it 12 seconds off the leader? That's not bad, and that's not bad at all. A few takeaways, obviously, the Confessor. Again, there's nothing really to take away, to be honest, from him. Obviously, he did everything he can. Obviously, the usual standard that he set this season. Jovial Manatee, sort of again, as we saw last season when he did the full season, he's good in qualifying. His pace does drop off in the race. He
hold on a minute. He almost got Jean at the end, so he almost his pace went at the wrong time.
He did, but at the end, how close was he to Dan the Man? Before they pitted, and how far was he away at the end? So I think, his pace in the race needs to be worked on. There's no question about it. Similar to Jean. Jean is very good in qualifying. He's lacking that last little bit in the race, whether it's, again, Urs management with, and having that pace without it, and so on there. So there's, again, as I mentioned just a moment ago, there's a few drivers that I think are showing signs of promise. They just need to work on that last little bit for the next game. Again, the next game could be completely different, a new game, new challenges and things like that. So we'll see how that goes. But, I think someone who I think will be ruining his season, he'll be glad when it's over. Phil Bardwell, yet again a bit of a disappointment sort of tonight. I mean, he finished what, P7 was it? Obviously come the end of that race, but mistakes are happening a lot for Phil, whether it's him crashing into people or the people crashing into him, or just mistakes of his own. He needs to. He needs improvements for the next game. I know, obviously, what was it? I think last season or the season before that, he did turn TC off, so he has been getting used to that. But you'd expect him to be on top of that by now. And, the caliber that Phil is, he'll be hoping, that the next game is a bit more kind to him, and he'll be back at the front, hopefully. So yeah, there's a few things that I think will be going on behind the scenes for next season, and the off season is always good for that. But Japan, I'm not going to take it away from anyone. It's a difficult circuit, especially on this game with all the curbs. You make one mistake, you hit your line wrong in one corner, and you're off. So I think, to say we only had a few DNFs, I'd say overall the drivers did pretty well.
Well, I think you're right, and I think what's interesting and worth remembering, certainly, is this is only the first game we've had of the new generation cars, and they're very different to drive than the previous generation of cars, which we were so used to driving in the previous, 5 games, was it? I think we obviously had them in, so, it's quite a change to go from that to these, which are very demanding in a different way. And look at this, this. Silverstone has delivered. We have got a sodden Silverstone, and ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, strap yourself in, as we're going to have quite an entertaining qualifying on our hands. But Softy, just coming back to the point I was just making there about this game, I mean, how does it really take a game, maybe 2, for some of these drivers to get in the pattern of a very different philosophy of car all of a sudden?
No, absolutely. And, I think for the past few games, the same setups have sort of worked with ever so slight tweaks and things like that. Whereas, from 2021 to 2022, the setups are completely different. So, you've got to deal with that. These cars are very understeery in comparison to previous ones. They're not as compliant as well. The cars understeer more, but then you also get snap oversteer more as well. On top of that, you've got the curbs being very aggressive on this game, spinning you very easily. So this game it's been a challenge for everyone, including myself, and I'm sure you as well when you race in TGP2, to get to grips with whether that is the setups, whether that is the circuits, whether that is the curbs and the bumps and things like that. So it will take a while to get used to it. Obviously, we saw again last season Jack Hickey and Kai, for the most part, were the only 2 fighting for wins for probably the first half of the season. And then as everyone got used to the game, everyone else started closing in, sort of getting better, and then they started sort of falling back in terms of the outright pace. So, I think the next game is going to be interesting. I don't think the handling will be too different. Probably a bit more compliant on the front end, a bit more compliant on the rear end, less oversteer, less understeer, and just overall easier to drive cars, and probably easier on the curbs as well. So, different people, work well with different things on a game, So it'll be interesting to see. I think that it won't change too much in terms of the pecking order. Naturally, it never does. The fast people will always be fast, but it'll be interesting, and I'm very much looking forward to it. Hopefully, I'll be racing next season as well. Obviously, I am looking to make my return, so I may not be in commentary with you if you are doing commentary, so I do apologise for that if that is the case.
I'll let you off. If you're going to take the baton to the confessor, I'll allow it.
It needs to happen. It does. I mean, you know, as I said this season many times, the Confessor's been playing this game a lot more in recent months and this season than everyone else. Everyone else is sort of a bit bored of the game, so they've been playing it a lot. As actually the Confessor does an outlap and comes straight back in. So interesting there from the Confessor. Obviously, he is going to start at the back, I reckon. So he's just getting a bit used to the circuit here, but yeah, it's been, I would say, more frustrating to watch this season than anything, purely because no one's challenged the Confessor, and it's not down to the lack of skill. You know, you've got Jonas, you've got Matt Tibosh, you've got Speed Kai, you've got Dan, you've got Jack Hickey, you've got all of these talented drivers, you've got obviously New Zealand Cam, all these talented drivers that, you know, are able to perform, they're able to fight for wins, but, you know, they've just sort of, again, the fact that they're not playing the game nearly as much, they're not as bothered about this season being the last one. You know, they're not performing at the levels they should. And to watch that, it's frustrating. We want to see a fight for the wins. You know, we want people to challenge the Confessor, and, you know, it's not happened. But, you know, in the end, you know, as I mentioned previously as well, you know, the Confessor can only race what he's got in front of him. And, you know, if he's the only one performing as expected, it is going to be dominant as it has been, and you know, that's not to take anything away from the Confessor. He's a bloody fast driver.
Well, he certainly is, and he certainly made this season his own. But he's going to be starting this race in the back of the grid. Someone who is having quite an adventure out there at the moment is Cam. We've been watching him, and he's just been slipping and sliding all over the track, Softy. So these drivers all on the full wet tyres, those who are out on the track at the moment, which is all bar 2. So we've got 16 cars on the track at the moment, clearly all struggling for grip.
Yeah, I mean, Silverstone, you want to run very little downforce. I think in the dry, you're probably running about 15 on the downforce, as he actually nearly loses it in the last corner there, does New Zealand Cam, and he sets the first lap of 45.1. But yeah, I mean, Silverstone, you want to run very low downforce, you know, otherwise you're just going to lose time just without doing anything. You know, you gain so much time on the straights here, so you know, you just got to sort of cope through the corners. But the fact that it's wet, I think people will probably run a bit more downforce just to try and help with the qualifying. But you know, again, you'll just lose time hand over fist if you're running a bit too much. And yeah, so I reckon, you know, it's going to be an interesting race. Obviously, the fact that the Confessor is starting at the back as well, it'll be interesting to see his progression. Very easy, of course, in the first few corners to get wing damage with everyone going into a fast right-hander. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the Confessor's progress.
Yeah, I think you should be right. It's going to be an interesting race. If it is wet, as you said as well, we don't know if it is. We're waiting for our weather forecast. As it is Britain, of course, it can't really be trusted. So we've got some time starting to come in, getting slightly quicker as we're going down the man. We're watching now come around the final corner. He's going to go into P3 behind Kai and John. We've got, I don't know who that was crossing the line. Court, I think, just crossed the line. Phil Barshall have gone up into P6, so time's coming in thick and fast at the moment. Mayor Quimby just gone into P6, and Jack Hickey just therefore displacing him. Is that Cam or Dom coming to the end? It's Cam coming to the end of another lap, and Cam finding a lot more time, clearly having a lot less adventures on the circuit as well. He'll be pleased for that anyway, after his first run was quite messy. So just a handful of corners to go there for Cam. Round to the final corner, and we are going to see an improvement from him, but it's only P2. I say only P2. He's just under 2 tenths slower than John. So Cam clearly getting warmed up to the circuit, Softy, and sure the other drivers will be following suit.
Yeah, he's actually lost it there pretty much, or almost. Very, very good save there. But yeah, again, confidence is key in the wet conditions. You know, if you're not confident, you're not going to do well. So, you know, everyone probably is fueled up as I think last week as well. Everyone's fueled up, running as long as they can, just get to grips with the circuit, get to grips with the grip, of course, as well. And actually, I've just got word as well that from one of the, you know, our informant within Aston Martin, 11% chance of rain at the start of the race, and it goes up to 72% chance by the end of the race. So it's very likely that at some point it's either going to be wet all the way through or changeable conditions. We've got a yellow flag out there, and that is down the man at Stowe. Yeah, there we go. So nothing on toward there, and that's Joe Diamanti a 41.5 there. So times will be improving, of course, as the confidence and the fuel load comes down, as the tyres warm up. But yeah, it should be potentially a very interesting race if it is changeable, which you know, are always the hardest races to do well at.
Yeah, well, strategy is key there, and that's where someone like the Confessor, starting from the back of the grid, may be feeling quite lucky. Time a pit stop right, and that is worth gold, really. You pick the right lap to come into the pits, you can gain 5 or 6 seconds straight away. So keep an eye on that. Out on track at the moment, we've got a lot of drivers, and all but two drivers on the track with ERT Jordan in the pits and the Confessor. Matt Tibos hasn't really had a chance to get a lap in so far, but Softy on one at the moment, just a few corners to go, massively improving on his personal best. So he's another driver that's had a bit of a funny season, struggled for form in the early part, got that win mid-season, and you thought he might have been turning a curve, and he did get some good results thereafter as he goes into P2 now, but he'll be one that's certainly looking for an improvement on the next game, won't he?
Absolutely. I think that's been the story of Matt Tibos's TGP career for the past, I'd say, probably 3 seasons. Again, I don't know what the situation is. Again, this is what I'm talking about. Matt Tibos is a top driver in TGP. Whether he's at the front or not, I will always think that. But different games suit different people, and this game, and probably arguably the last game as well, just hasn't suited him. He has been quite unlucky with incidents over the past few seasons as well, obviously this season. But yeah, he just needs a good final to this season. End it on a high. Don't make any mistakes, even if it's just a podium. It gives you that confidence of knowing, right, I can do this, I can improve. It's all about that self-belief and that self-confidence that I can fight at the front. I know I can fight at the front, and when you are fighting at the front, because you know you can, you make less mistakes because you know that, well, I'm used to this. So yeah, I'm hoping that Matt Tibos does improve. Obviously, come the next game and is fighting right back up at the front for wins and titles.
Yeah, certainly hope so. We've just seen Jack Hickey going to P4. We're now watching Cam coming into the last few corners. Someone else who's taken 1 race win this season. Probably should have had more in terms of his pace, and certainly on the road finished P1 more times than that, and he now goes into provisional pole. Look at that, he's put almost half a second between him and Jovial Manatee. So very good lap time from Cam. I think we're going to see a lot of drivers peeling off into the pits to refuel, get a fresh set of the wet weather tyres. But Softy, it's worth pointing out as well that if there is a chance of rain in the race, then some of these drivers are going to want to be keeping these wet weather tyres, and if it does dry up a little bit, we might see the intermediates in a few minutes' time. But no word of what's happening at the moment, but at least we're seeing out of our commentary box some very heavy rain.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the sky, obviously it doesn't look like it's let up whatsoever in qualifying, but as you mentioned, it is going to be interesting in the race to see. I think realistically, I don't know how many sets of wets you get. I think is it 2 or 3 in qualifying. So yeah, they want to keep at least 1 set for the race. So again, use 1 set of tyres for your high fuel run. Burn those out, and then simply just one run at the very end on minimal fuel with a few seconds to spare. To try and maximise the grip and the tyre life as well, if you're going to have to use that tyre in the race as well. So yeah, it's going to be interesting as we see Dan the Man going up to P3 there on a 41.6, but yeah, I mean, it's also interesting to see, obviously, if it's going to be inters. You never know. It might not be full wets. It might be inters. I think actually the full wets tend to give you more grip than the inters, even when it's the right tyre to be on. So it'll be interesting. Obviously, you never know. It could be dry tyres at the start or so on. So it's the unknown. I don't think we've had too many wet races this season. Have we had any?
I don't think we have.
No, I know we've had a few sort of mixed conditions in qualifying, but yeah, I don't think we've had a single wet race so far. So if it is, it's going to be an unknown for a lot of people, and ironic to say that it's going to be unknown in the final week, in the final race of the season.
Well, just when we thought things were starting to sort themselves out, get a little bit boring, we've decided to come and give you a wet race for you all to enjoy. Well, wet qualifying, maybe not a wet race. Could be a wet start, as Softy said, 11% chance of rain at the beginning of the race, then increasing to a 70% chance towards the end. So do stick around for what is going to be the last race in TGP1 Season 39 and the last race for TGP Series. or TGP1 at least, on this game. We've still got TGP2 to come tomorrow night in the conclusion as what has been a fantastic title battle so far, where we've got 4 drivers still involved. Those to note: Daniel P. Wheelnut, reigning TGP2 champion. We've got Magic Poop Cannon, Wet Lemons, both of those 2 drivers having featured this season, and also Lewis Craig as well. So do tune in and watch tomorrow night, 7:30. The usual commentary team will be involved in that, I think. Not sure. Could be Chiapelli, could be Dan, could be John, could be Roy, who knows? But for the moment, at least, we've got a very entertaining qualifying session still to come. And Roy then about to start yet another lap softy. So let's ride on board with the Alfa Romeo driver. Talk us through a wet lap of Silverstone.
Yes, turn 1, turn 2, very easy to understeer. Obviously, you want to keep to the left-hand side, about 70 metre board, brake for this right-hander. Brake a bit earlier than you need to, just to ensure you hit the apex. Keep it wide here to get that run onto this little straight. Normally DRS would be active, not in the wet, of course. Very easy with this circuit, just to take a bit too much speed through these corners and understeer, again with the low downforce. And here we go then, brake about, I'd say 40 metres normally, hit the apex as late as possible, just to give you that momentum through here. This long right-hander, take a double apex if you can, especially in the wet, get that traction, short shift if needed. Again, traction is at a premium when it comes to these wet conditions, as it actually gets a bit of oversteer there, so it's definitely not easy. And here we go then, as Matt Tibos has retired into COP, short shift on the exit just to avoid the traction loss there. And here we go, the one and only Magnussen Beckett, normally staying 8th gear through this right-hander. He actually downshift to 7th, downshift to 6th, probably downshift to 5th. Here we go, and probably downshift to 4th. No, he stays in 4th. Actually, there we go, it's a late 4th. But there we go then, down this back straight. He is purple, he's 4 tenths up on his current lap time, but he'll be a 10th off currently of the provisional pole. Here we go, Stowe brake as soon as the curve starts on the left. Hit the apex, be very careful because it will oversteer you if you touch that curve a bit too much. And here we go, this final little chicane brake, about 100 metre boards. Avoid locking up, avoid the Sosh curve on the left, avoid the Sosh curve on the right, and that was as sweet as you like it. Be very careful, traction. Not very good around this final corner, even in the dry. And what is he going to do? It is going to be a 41-0, and he goes pole by, what, half a tenth?
Yeah, very good lap there. Very controlled lap from Roy. Cam has just started a lap behind, so we'll see what he can do a little bit further around the tour. Kai on a lap at the moment. As we said, Matt Tibos has spun and crashed, so he will be starting no better than 5th, which is disappointing for him, as the track will only keip improving. Jean-Luc Taylor, not John the Man, stays 7th place. Big Boy Ewan has invalidated his lap. Jack Hickey, meanwhile, finding time in the first sector. But let's go back to Kai, going through Maggotts and Beckett at the moment. He's about to start onto the hangar straight then. And we're going to get a second split time, but he's half a second down, over half a second down, Softy. So seeing no improvement at the moment from Kai. We've got a yellow flag. That's drivers trying to create a little bit of gap into the final couple of corners. Down the man on that lap. Dan Morris up there in P3 at the moment on an outlap. Did he go pole? Was Canada a wet qualifying? No.
I don't think it was. I think it was dry, if I remember correctly.
I think you're
I'm not
right.
too sure about that one, actually.
Yeah,
Maybe.
you're right.
I think it was dry.
Yes. So we will see how the final bit of this qualifying session ends up. Just over 2 minutes to go. Interesting thing I noticed on Roy's dash, actually, Softy, as we're cutting to Cam now, final few corners, see if he can improve. He was running quite a lot of fuel still, wasn't he, Roy? I think I saw on his wheel he had 5 laps of fuel, so running a lot of fuel for not many minutes left. But we'll come to that in just a moment, as Cam then round the final corner, a minute and a half just over left to go of this session. Cam crosses the line and he goes back to provisional pole by 2 tenths of a second.
Yeah, absolutely fair play to Cam there. He was, quite a neat lap from him there. I was actually on board with him for the majority there. But yeah, going back to Jovial Manatee, I don't know how accurate the steering wheels are on this game with fuel and things like that. I know the ERS deployment is quite accurate on the steering wheels when you're spectating. But yeah, I'm not too sure about the fuel. I'll be surprised if he's running a lot of fuel, for his final run, really, because end of the day, you want as little fuel, because that can, it can cost you half a second easily if you're running, 3 or 4 laps of fuel. So it'll be interesting to see. But what is he going to do? He's actually matched his first sector time as Jovial Manatee at the minute. But we'll see what he can do around the rest of this lap. Obviously, he needs to improve by just over, actually just under a tenth to get that provisional pole or pole position. Obviously, the fact that the Professor is not doing this qualifying session, it's an opportunity for everyone.
Yep, certainly is. Roy then coming towards Copse corner. He validates his lap, actually. And is he going to have time to get to the line? Oh, that's going to be close. That's going to be very close. Jean has just gone into P3 and validated his lap. He's certainly not going to get to the line. Dan Morris, though, look at this. Oh, he's had a little bit of a slide coming through Stowe, and that could cost him because he was finding time up until then. And he's going to get another lap, so he will get one more roll of the dice. Jack Hickey has gone up into P4, so great lap from Jack Hickey.
Ooh.
What?
Dan Morris getting well out of shape in that final corner, and it cost him all of his time.
Yeah, so we've got Dan the Man on a lap, Dan Morris on a lap, Jack Hickey on a lap. John is not going to make it. He's coming to the pits. Roy is not going to make it. So that's Roy's qualifying session over. He's going to be P2 at best, and Cam did get to the line, so he's going to have a chance for another lap. Both Alpines are out of the session. They're going to be 7th and 8th at best. Jean, as we know, isn't going to be going any quicker. Big boy Ewan is on a lap. Phil Barswell's qualifying is over. Jake Davies' qualifying is over. Court Gill has just crossed the line to go P12. Dom Smith, he's not going quicker. Qualifying over. Cam's decided he's going to get no further in this session. Jack Hickey's invalidated his lap time. He's going to be no better than 4th. Dan the Man now coming into Maggots and Beckett's. How's he getting on, Softy?
It seems quite nice. Obviously, I didn't quite catch his first sector time, but we'll get his middle sector time in just a moment if he's going to improve. But he does look quite neat and tidy at the moment. He's going to be up. He's actually half a tenth down on his current lap, so he's not really improving. But we'll see what he can do coming into this final sector, into Stowe. Again, trying to take all that momentum through. He can actually run wide. He gets a bit of oversteer there on entry, so he's really fighting that rear end at this latter part of this lap. But where is he going to go? Is he going to improve? He's currently P6 at the minute, so not really where he wants to be. Rides all of that curves. That will unsettle the car, but yeah, he seems to be struggling the second half of this lap with quite a lot of oversteer in the wet conditions, and he improves by nearly a tenth, but he stays P6.
Yeah, big boy Ewan popped up into P5 just in front of us there, so great lap from him. Dan Morris was finding 1,000th of a second, and as he comes to the final corner, he's sliding round the final corner, but unfortunately for him, he's lost his time and will end up P7. Dom Smith, we said, isn't improving. Mayor Quimby just got a couple of corners to go. Can he improve from P15? No, he can't. So that concludes our qualifying session then, and we have got a bit of a mixed-up grid, haven't we, Softy? But the Confessor, thanks to some no laps behind him from Jack Pearson and Jordan, it's gained an extra 2 places. Going to be starting from 16th.
Yeah, unusual there why Jack Pearson and ELT Jordan haven't set laps, because in the end, it's wet. You may as well try and do something. Obviously, they're not doing a Confessor on purpose. He's starting from the back, so I reckon they've just messed up their laps completely, or they've lost the plot, to be honest. But that's an improvement for the Confessor. At least he's not starting last, and he's starting P16 instead there. So that's 2 less people he's going to have to overtake as mobile chicanes. But yeah, that is the qualifying done, and it was. It was definitely a lot of moments in that quali session with it being wet.
Well, there certainly was, and let's give you a rundown then of the starting grid for the final race of season 39 in TGP1. New Zealand Cam on pole, Jovial Manatee joining him on the front row with those good starts. Could we see those 2 change around orders at the end of turn 1? Then in P3, Jean-Luc Taylor. P4, Jack Hickey. P5 for Big Boy Ewan with Dan the Man in P6. P7 was Dan Morris with Matt Tibbleson in P8. P9 was Speed Kai with Mr. Chiapelli rounding out the top 10. Phil Bardrow was down in 11th place with Jake Davies 12th. Court Gill 13th. Dom Smith 14th. Mayor Quimby was 15th. And the Confessor, Jack Pearson and Jordan rounding out the qualifying order. And Softy, through all of what happened, we forgot to congratulate Ferrari for winning the Constructors' Championship.
Congratulations, well done. Yeah, fair play to them. Obviously, Dan the Man doing everything he could this season, and the Court actually having some great races as well. So, fair play to them both. Obviously, with McLaren, the Confessor has absolutely destroyed everyone this season, but unfortunately, JD missing races, crashing, things like that. it wasn't quite there for the McLaren duo, but there's always next season, and it is dry then for the start of this race by the looks of it. So it is going to be a dry start. But as Dom mentioned, obviously that secret in
it's not very secret. You just said who it was.
I know. Yeah, you know what? Who cares? It's the final race. He's probably not going to be there next season. So yeah, whatever. But yeah, it is dry for the start of this race. Again, up to 75% chance at the end of this race. So it could. The weather could change very quickly, but in probably typical F1 fashion, it'll probably rain after the race finishes.
Yep, probably. So, Softy, what do we need to look out for then quickly on strategy? What do we need to keep an eye out for?
So tyre wear is not that bad around here. I reckon if there is a chance of rain, the majority of people will start on the mediums just to wait until that rain starts. Slipstreaming and overtake should be plentiful around here, and the Confessor will probably still win. So congrats there.
Well, he set it up very nicely, and we've got 3, 4, 5 lights, and for one last time in TGP 139, we're underway, and it's once again a fantastic start from Jovial Manatee, who's already taken the lead. He doesn't need to worry about turn number 1. Jean-Luc Taylor slots into third behind, and behind that, Dan the Man is up into 4th place. Jack Hickey dropping down. We've got cars off in the background that look like Dom Smith. The Confessor is up to 14th already, and we got a spin. That's Big Boy Ewan going for a spin in the background. Disaster for him after such a good qualifying session. Jean now putting pressure on Cam and Jovial Manatee further ahead. Jovial Manatee on those medium tyres, struggling against Cam on the soft. John on the mediums as well as we head towards the end of the Wellington Straight. It's Cam who's back in the lead of the race with Jean almost running into the back of the Alfa Romeo, and Matt Tibos trying to put pressure on Dan the Man. Matt Tibos also on the soft tyres, and as we head through to the old start-finish straight now, Matt Tibos well positioned to make a move on Dan, but not quite. Meanwhile, Jean more like he's going to have a go on Roy into Copse Corner, but not quite. It's Jake Davies up the inside of Court Gill into P7. The Confessor down in P15 after that initial good start, Softy.
Yeah, I actually think he probably illegally overtook someone, because I did see him actually back out going onto that straight after the first few corners, so probably got an illegal overtake there. But he's on the soft tyres, whereas everyone around him is on the mediums, so most people are on those mediums. You've got Nuzula Cam, Matt Tibos, JD, Jack Pearson and the Crest are all on the soft, while everyone else is on the mediums, as we see Speed Kai demoting Dan Morris down into P12, and Mayor Quimby also going up the inside of Dan Morris there. So Dan Morris is struggling. Dan Morris does have wing damage by the looks of it on his right hand end plate, but yeah, it was a chaotic first lap as Nuzula Cam does set the fastest lap.
He's got 1.9 second advantage already as the Confessor makes mincemeat of Dan Morris, who might have wanted a pit at the end of that lap, but given the entry to the pits here, might not have had the opportunity to. Jake Davies picked up a penalty after just a lap and a corner, so very impressive from him. But meanwhile, back at the front, we got Matt Tibos, who has got past Dan and now getting past Jean and up into third place. So the Alpine, I hate to use this quote again, Softy, but has opened the book and turned straight to the rampage.
Yeah, fair play there, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see there. But what I'd like to just point out as well, JD actually just got collected, unfortunately, into the turn 3-4 section. So I'm not too sure who he was fighting. I think it may have been Coe. I don't want to sort of point fingers, but it was around that mark. But yeah, very interesting there. But now it is Matt Tibos in P3, Jean in P4, Dan on P5.
Yeah, and so Matt Tibos then still going for it. New Zealand Cam, 3-second advantage, really making the most of those soft tyres. And Mr. Chiapelli's now out of the race as well. Disaster for him. And Matt Tibos then is, oh, look at this, Dan the Man actually is the one who could be making a move. DRS not entitled this lap yet, but John's just buggered off down the
what is that?
Down the Hanger Straight. Where did he go?
Is Jean running 0-0 wings? What was that? It's either Jean's running the 0-0 and just hoping that he could do something, or Dan the Man's just running high downforce at Silverstone, which makes no sense. But I reckon Jean's probably running the 0-0 wings because he's very slow in this race, and look, it's happening again. Yeah, Jean is definitely running less than 10 wings around Silverstone and just hoping that he can do something, because yeah, that straight line speed is interesting, to say the least.
It's impressive is what it is, Softy. I mean, it's incredible. But yes, you said he's struggling so much around the corners, and look at this, down the man now with DRS, Jean with DRS as well, it must be said, but he's losing time.
It's ridiculous. And the thing is as well, Dan the man's got no hope of overtaking Jean in the corners, because the corners aren't overtaking spots around here, so he's never going to be able to do anything unless Jean makes a mistake.
Well, this is Incredible bit of tactics from Jean.
Oh,
Jean-Luc Taylor,
ridiculous.
you have set your car up to be a rocket ship. And Matt Tibos could probably do one of those right about now, because he is still staring at the back of Jovial Manatee, and those soft tyres, Softy, are going to be crying for help in a minute, and he's going to have the rocket ship entitled Jean-Luc Taylor on his back in a minute.
Here comes Jean, look at it. Jean's already... It's not as bad as Dan the Man, but what? It's just... He's gaining so much. I know, obviously, at Monza you want to run as little as you can, but that's a bit ridiculous. And yeah, I think Matt Tibos is going to be absolutely terrified of that wound behind him come the next 2 laps.
Well, it's incredible, really.
Oh, and Dan's half spun there.
Oh, yeah, Dan's lost a lot of time. He's gone wide there, and that's going to offer Jack Hickey an opportunity to move up into 5th place, an invitation that Jack Hickey politely accepts.
Yeah, obviously Dan the Man's clearly got a set-up issue there, because his rear end was squirreling around at the end of qualifying, and it's squirreling around at the end of, well, the start of this race. So he is on his medium tyres, so they do take a bit of time to get warm up, but not really what you want at speed. Kai loses a place to Jack Pearson as they go side by side, but gains that place back. Very close race in between these two, as we see Maya Quimby around the outside as well, thinking of the attack on Speed Kai. Speed Kai actually pulls out the way and lets both of them back through, so they've already got an illegal overtake there, but that's allowed Maya Quimby up 2 positions.
Yep, well done there from Quimby, and Kai now putting the pressure on Jack Pearson. It must be said, we didn't notice it, we didn't mention
Dan
it.
the Man and Jack Hickey here.
Yeah, that. We didn't mention it, but Jack Pearson actually was in the top 10 at the end, halfway through the opening lap, having started in 17th. So while the Confessor didn't make up very much ground, he's now putting a lot of pressure on Phil Bargewell. It certainly worked out very well for Jack Pearson. John now 4.5 tenths behind Matt Tibos. He's going to have DRS, and surely in a minute, Softy, he's going to have 3rd place.
He is. He's closing a lot, but obviously Matt Tibos does have the DRS just on Jovial Manatee. But you know what I'm actually going to say? I actually reckon Dan the Man is running way too much downforce, because Jack Hickey, as we see, who's that? Matt Tibos is in the pits then, there we go. So, but yeah, I actually think Dan the Man is actually running way too much downforce, because he was losing time massively over Jack Hickey on that back straight going into Stowe, but nowhere near as much as Jean, but he was still losing quite significant time, and the Confessor actually already up to P7, so the Confessor's already joined this battle for P2 really. So he is on the soft tyres though, so you know, I think the other cars ahead of him will be coming back to him come the end of this race, but yeah, the Confessor already onto this lead group.
Yeah, well, we just saw him get past Phil Bargewell on the Hangar Straight. Matt Tibos has come out, is going to be coming out to the pit in P14 on the road. Massive gap, so he's got a chance to get his head down and get on with. Dan Morris did also pit and change that front wing as well, getting rid of the damage. But Jean, a second behind Jovial Manatee now that Matt Tibos' roadblock has gone. But with that incredible straight line speed, surely going to be catching him. But interesting to see Jovial Manatee starting to reel that gap in a little bit to Cam out front now, as perhaps those soft tyres beginning to drop off, as Kai has got back past Owen for what is P9. But Owen got a run and getting back past the Alpine, is he? Kai's not giving this one up. The two of them run side by side, there's contact, and Owen Quimby has found himself spinning round and just about kept it out of the gravel, but it's hard to go side by side through Maggots and Beckett, and these two just proved why.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything in that, to be honest with yourself. You go side by side, one person probably takes an ever so slightly different line, and that sort of speed, it's very easy just to collect each other. And unfortunately for Owen, he was the unlucky soul there. But yeah, Dan the Man then, obviously speaking of the front group, now 1.1 seconds behind Jack Hickey, with the Confessor only 8 tenths behind. So if Dan is not careful, he's going to be overtaken probably by the Confessor, and probably caught and Phil before the end of this race. So yeah, Dan has not chose the right setup. It's either he hasn't chose the right setup with too much downforce, or he's probably chose the wrong tyre pressures and probably overheated these tyres.
And let's not forget, Softy, we still got a 70% chance of rain towards the end of this race. So are we going to see a few of these medium tyre runners just eke it out towards the end of the race? And could that be where the likes of Matt Tibos, maybe Cam, if he comes into the pits in a minute as well, come back into the race if that rain doesn't come?
Absolutely, I think it's important. And this is I think why so many people started on the medium tyres, is because they know there's a chance of rain. So if it's later on in the race, you may as well try and start on those mediums, which is a perfectly sound strategy. And look at the Confessor on Dan the Man now. Dan the Man's got no pace in the straights whatsoever. So he's either carrying way too much wing, he's either got some sort of damage somehow that we've missed, or he's got some sort of problem. But look at this, the Confessor. easily
past
through. There's no. Yeah, Dan has absolutely ruined his setup. I reckon it's the setup, to be honest. But yeah, going back to the point as we saw the Confessor actually now pits. So if it is going to be raining a bit later on, that's probably not the best strategy to be on. But yeah, I think it's interesting because if you start on the mediums, you're clearly wanting to go until the rain comes, and if you're on the softs, you're obviously wanting to try and hoping that the rain doesn't come. But it is a bit cloudy, but there doesn't seem to be any rain clouds anywhere near the circuit at the minute. That can change very quick, but it's lap 7 of 13, so time is running out for this rain to arrive.
Well, it certainly is. Over halfway through this race, or we're just getting to halfway through this race now. And interesting, Softy, to note as well, Cam on those soft tyres is actually gapping Roy. So we know Roy's tyre wear or tyre management isn't fantastic, but the fact that Cam is getting those softs so far, that's a hell of an effort.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think, again, the tyre wear is not particularly bad round here. I think on previous games you could run the softs as long as you could on the mediums. But, it's... You don't get that much of a difference between the tyre compounds because there's not really any heavy braking zones, technical corners or anything like that. As long as you can take the momentum through the corners, you can make the tyres last and sort of keep up that pace as well. But as Big Boy Ewan gets a penalty there, but yeah, at the minute it's a bit of a jovial manatee sandwich, and New Zealand Cam is on that 4-second gap. But I reckon he'll be pitting either any time soon, or potentially Cam will probably be waiting for the rain to come if he can make those tyres last. Which, with the tyre well, it is definitely possible.
Look at this, we've got Jean and Hickey in the pits. I was just keeping an eye on the Confessor as well, because he came out the pits just half a second behind Matt Tibos. And look at him, he's all over the back of Matt Tibos, coming onto the hangar straight. And let's not forget, Matt Tibos pitted from third in the race, and the Confessor might have played a blinder here, because we've got some of the front runners who started on the medium tyres coming to the pits for the softs, as the Confessor makes his way past the Alpine in what could be a net P3.
Give or take, yeah. And here we go, Matt Tibos is thinking about it this time. No, he's not. He thought about it, but he ended up not. But this is what I mean. The Confessor, we all know he's got the pace advantage over everyone in this field by quite a considerable margin. So, as I said before this race even started, the Confessor could very easily still win this race, depending on the weather. And it is.
Look at this! Look at Hickey!
There we go. Jack Hickey has been overtaken by him, and he's on the inside. He's thinking about it, but yeah, the Confessor is just staying ahead.
So Jean was third when he pitted, but Confessor's run a bit wide there, and Jack Hickey, because he hasn't got no heat in the tyres, can't make the most of it, but someone who will make the most of it is Matt Tibos. Look at him, he's pulling alongside, but what a setup Jack Hickey has got as well. Look at him, he's just killing it off.
Yeah, I think potentially Matt Tibos is probably, again, running a bit too much downforce, and this is what I mean, you want to run as little downforce as you can get away with in the races, purely for that reason. It's so easy to overtake someone when you've got less downforce. You just need to make it in the corners. But yeah, I do reckon Matt Tibos and probably Dan the Man are running a bit too much downforce. And yeah, I think even with Matt Tibos, it's quite obvious. And we'll probably see it down this back straight in a moment as Dan Morris is sadly spun at the old final corner there. But and Dan the Man and the rest of the guys are in the pits now at the front.
Yeah, Jovial Manatee, Cam and Dan all into the pits. So we're going to get a true understanding now of where these guys are in relation to those who have pitted. So Jean is the leading pitter. The Confessor is second in that little race, with Jack Hickey in third. Jack Hickey still keeping the Confessor very honest as Cam is coming towards the end of the pits. These guys just coming through the last couple of corners now. Keep an eye on the mini-map on the right-hand side of your screen as Jean coming around the final corner onto the new start-finish straight. Cam is out. Cam is gone. But where is Jovial Manatee? He's just appearing from the crevice there. Jean appears from turn number 1, and Jovial Manatee, for the moment at least, has held on to what is a net P2.
Yeah, but the Confessor is not far behind these two, but John needs to be very careful. Actually, John is pushing Jovial Manatee at the minute, so obviously Jovial Manatee is running traction control, remember. He has turned it on because he feels better. Actually, I think so is John, to be honest. But here we go, John around the outside. Is he going to make it stick? Both on fresh tyres. He's holding it around the outside. Very easy to just tap the rear end of someone there, and very nice from John there. But the Confessor is not far behind. He will have that pace advantage, of course, on those mediums, even though it is a slow tyre. But yeah, Jovial Manatee now, I reckon, is going to probably start dropping a bit further behind. Obviously, he does have 71% ERS, so that may not be too bad for him, but Jean is on 10% ERS at the minute.
That was absolutely fantastic. What we just saw there from Jean, a beautiful move around the outside on Jovial Manatee on those fresh soft tyres. Jean's tyres up to speed a little bit quicker than John's. But now look at these. We've got 4 cars line astern as they head down the Hangar Straight. Still no sign of this rain. And Roy trying to go around the outside, trying to outdo Jean at his own game, but for the moment at least can't quite do it. As we head into the club chicane, he's got to settle for what is a net P3 at the moment. The Confessor just behind them, with Jack Hickey just behind them as well. So this 4-way battle for what is effectively second place, as we now got Court Gill into the pits, and Jordan and Dom staying out, clearly hoping that this mystical rain might come.
Yeah, I mean, they've got nothing to lose, to be honest. I think they were quite far down, come prior to the pit stops anyway, so they've got nothing to lose. I mean, there is, 3 laps left, so it could be a shower at the end, but as I said before the race, it could very easily be a case of, like in real life F1, the rain comes at the end of the race when it makes no difference to the results or the tyre strategies, but the Confessor lost a bit of time there to Jovial Manatee and Jean there, but Jovial Manatee is putting the pressure back on Jean, so Jean, with that lack of ERS, and of course, the straights here, it's quite hard to regain your ERS if you use it all, because there's no heavy braking zones. As Matt Tibos has actually spun at the old last corner there, so that's any good result ruined yet again for Matt Tibos. That is a story of his season and seasons prior, is too many mistakes, and obviously that always costs him a good result.
Yeah, that's disappointing for Matt, but focusing still then on this battle for second place, and Jovial Manatee is where he needs to be once again. We're riding on board with the Alfa Romeo driver. He's got some fantastic straight line speed. We know Jean's a rocket ship, but Roy even quicker. And as we head to Stowe Corner, Jovial Manatee has moved up into a net P2, but Jean keeping him honest and still right behind him, the number 7 Williams. We're being treated to a fantastic race at this last race of the season. We have got just 3 laps to go as Jordan has finally admitted defeat, and Dom Smith getting a bit of airtime and at the lead of the race, with Jovial Manatee just setting the fastest lap. And look at this Confessor now all over the back of Jean-Luc Taylor, Softy.
He thought about going up the inside there, but thought better of it. So the Confessor, I think he's just biding his time. He doesn't need to rush with this. I think obviously you want to get past sooner rather than later, of course, but he doesn't need to make any mistakes. He's currently P5. Obviously it will technically be a P4 once Dom pits. So this is a battle for P2 come the end of this race. And we know the Confessor does have that pace advantage over the cars ahead of him, as Dan the Man now down to P9. He's been overtaken by Court and Phil, so it goes from bad to worse for Dan the Man.
Yeah, disappointing for Dan, down to 9th place. And look at these 4 drivers, look at them, all vying for second place. There's nothing really up for grabs still in this championship. I know there's a few places.
Yes, a few places there, Mike, as your mic cut out there. But yeah, it's a great battle. I think, the good thing about the end of the season as well is, no one's got anything to really fight for other than just the position itself. So they're going to give it their all. Of course, penalty points do carry over to next season if you get it in the final week. However, they've got nothing to lose, so they may as well go. And here's the Confessor around the outside of Jean round Stowe. That was very good from the Confessor there. I think Jean actually got a bit compromised on the entry, but the Confessor now up to P5, and Jean runs it very wide. Then that's going to allow Jack Hickey round the outside. He thinks about it, but Jean holds on to P5 for the time being.
Yeah, good stuff there from the Confessor. Really, really smart move. And as we head on to the penultimate lap, Dom, it's still staying out there, and we have, in theory, got a battle for what is the race lead. And it's 2 Aston Martins. Dom hasn't pitted yet, was waiting for the rain, and it never came. And New Zealand Cam is surely going to have quite an easy move to take the lead of the race, and he does. But we're focusing a little bit further back. Jack Hickey.
Dan the Man, Court and Phil. Phil gets a bit of a tap while trying to go up the inside of Court. Then that's allowed Dan the Man to try and get against Court, but Court obviously with a straight line speed. And here comes Big Boy Ewan up the inside of Dan the Man there, up the inside, and that is the move nearly done. But Dan goes around the outside of him, very easy to do that. Obviously with the amount of downforce Dan is running, I'm not even surprised there. And that is Dan still keeping P8, but that's ruined Phil Bargewell's run there. Obviously I think turn 3, it went up the inside of Court and had a bit of a wheel bang there. So unfortunate for Phil there.
Yeah, that is a shame. And Phil, as you said earlier, Softy, not really having the sort of season he would have expected. But look at Big Boy Ewan. He's almost pushing that Ferrari through Maggots and Beckett's. And unfortunately for him, though, cannot make the move done. And Jack Hickey has got past Jean, look.
Yeah, nice and easy with the DRS there. So Jack Hickey is very good in that straight. Ironic that he's in a Red Bull, to be honest with yourself, because that's not real life. But yeah, Jean is there, and obviously Dom Smith does finally appear on the penultimate lap. Obviously, otherwise he'll get disqualified from the race. But yeah, the Confessor up to P3 on the circuit, and he's only 3/10 behind Jovial Manatee. They're about even on Urza, both of these cars, but Jovial Manatee will not have the DRS on this final lap, so I think Jovial Manatee needs to defend for his life.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, it's incredible that the Confessor has come from 16th up into 3rd place. Cam has got this one sewn. He's got 4.5 seconds best part of at the front of the race. Jovial Manatee, though, is keeping an eye on his mirrors, because here comes the Confessor, and he's going to try and go the long way around the outside, but he can't quite do it. Those older medium tyres not quite giving him the grip he needs, but he's still got, realistically, one, maybe two more opportunities, Softy, as Jean is still looking to try and get back past Jack Hickey.
The Confessor using a bit of Urz there to try and keep as close as he can. The Confessor is on 24% Urz, Jovial Manatee is on 11%, so I actually reckon it'll be relatively easy down this back straight after Maggotts and Beckett, although because Jovial Manatee is going to be derating, as we can see, and very close there the Confessor is, but yeah, the fact that Jovial Manatee is derating, the Confessor going to use all of his Urz. I think it's going to be relatively easy. And here we go then. As I said, it's going to be very easy for the Confessor there, and on the last lap as well.
Yep, around the outside he goes. Roy's going to put up a fight, though, and he sends it to the inside. The Confessor runs a little bit wide. They're still side by side, but the Confessor has got the lead. No, he's not. He's got second place, because the man in the lead is Cam, and he rounds the final corner, and he ends the season in just the way he would have wanted. The Aston Martin driver takes the win. The Confessor started 16th and finishes 2nd, and is the champion for season 39. Roy takes 3rd place, with Jack Hickey holding on to 4th place. Jean is 5th. Court Gill is 6th place, with Dan the Man, a disappointing end to the season for him, in 7th. Phil Barswell in 8th. ERT Jordan, great result for him, in 9th. Big Boy Ewan came home in P10. Kai crossed the line 11th, with Mayor Quimby just a couple of tenths behind in P12. Dom Smith made those medium tyres last 12 laps, but only good enough for 13th. And Matt Tibos is going to cross the line in a few minutes' time in 14th, with Dan Morris taking 15th. But Softy, once again, we've been treated to another good race, and not only another good race, another good season of TGP1. Season number 39 that was, let's not forget, and with season 40 to come in what will be I don't know, what will it be? TGP's 11th birthday is coming up very soon as well, but I'm sure it's going to be an exciting season on yet another Formula 1 game.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, this season was very good. Maybe not for the title fight, but for just overall racing from the rest of the field, other than the Confessor. It has been pretty close. Different people getting podiums here and there. Different people being at the front here and there as well. So it has been a decent season in terms of just general racing and sort of unpredictability in that midfield to the front of the field. But yeah, hopefully the next season on F123 is going to be even better. So I'm hoping there's going to be more of a title fight. But fair play to everyone this season who has taken part, whether you only did a few races, whether you was only a reserve, or whether you left halfway through or whatever. Well done to everyone. It's been an absolute fantastic season to commentate on, as I'm probably sure you'll agree, Mike. And I look forward to many more seasons of TGP1.
No, really enjoyed it. Thank you to everyone who has taken part in races across this season. To make, at the end of the day, we couldn't do it without people turning up. So really appreciate everyone who has taken part, everybody who has watched, and everybody who has been a part of the TGP series. It's still a wonderful place to be, even after 11 years going strong, it must be said. And to anybody who's interested in hearing about the history of the TGP series, do please tune in and listen to the podcast series that we've done. Just finished season 4, and that can be watched on the TGP series YouTube channel. But let's give you a rundown of the classified order for the last race of season 39, the last race in F122. Cam won the race with the Confessor, our champion, P2. Jovial Manatee was 3rd. Jack Hickey, our outgoing TGP1 champion, P4, with Jean-Luc Taylor, P5. Court Gill was 6th. Dan the Man 7th, Phil Barswell in 8th, and ERT Jordan 9th, with Big Boy Ewan rounding out the top 10. It was 11th for Speed Kai, 12th for Mayor Quimby, 13th for Dom Smith, and Matt Tibos getting the last points in 14th. Dan Morris missed out in 15th. Jack Pearson, Mr. Chiapelli, and Jake Davies all retired from the race. Well, Softy, we haven't got much left to say, but if you wouldn't mind me, please, I'd like to know your driver of the night, first of all, followed by your driver of the season.
Oh, I'd say driver of the night. I'd probably say the Confessor. did well. He won the first race and came from the back of the field for the second race. And then driver of the season, yet again, the Confessor. He absolutely destroyed everyone. He dominated. He had a very commanding season. Obviously, he missed a few races, of course, with illness and stuff. So yeah, all in all, the Confessor, out and out, head and shoulders above the rest.
Well, I tell you what, it was excellent to see, actually, because I agree with you entirely, actually. I don't think you can look beyond the Confessor in terms of someone who's actually done well this season. Other drivers have tried, but they just haven't been able to get anywhere near, and it's really not a surprise because he has been outstanding. And it's been a pleasure, actually, to watch him flexing his muscles, I think it must be said. And really good to see how well he has done. Softy, then, in a few words, how would you sum up the season?
A few words is a difficult one. I'd say it's been boring for the championship, but you can't have exciting seasons every season. But for the rest of the field, it's been fantastic. Great racing, close racing, unpredictability. Unusual people that you wouldn't normally expect to be near the front, getting a few good results as well. So I'd say overall, it has been a fantastic season with some great racing as well.
Yeah, I'd completely agree with that, and it's excellent to see. And we really hope we're going to be treated to another fantastic season in season 40, which, as I said, will be coming on F1 23 some point in the late summer. We have seen domination, we have seen fantastic overtakes, we have seen controversy, we have seen incidents, we have seen just about everything from dusk till dawn to midnight to twilight. And once again, we have had a fantastic season on TGP1. We've had a fantastic representation of the TGP series. We'll be joining you next season. We hope you'll be joining us too. But for now, at least, it's goodbye, it's good night, and we will see you on F1 23. As we said, hopefully sometime in the summer. We very much hope you'll be joining us. But for now, at least, this has been the TGP series. I've been Mike Noon. He's been the Soft Cop. It's been a production for the TGP series YouTube channel. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at TGP series. Keep an eye on our Instagram accounts as well. But for now, we'll see you on PS4.